Tiny Beautiful Things, Advice from Dear Sugar by Cheryl Strayed. Picture this. A young man sits down and writes a letter. It's not long, just 3 words, repeated 3 times. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? He's not asking about a specific problem. He's asking about everything. The entire overwhelming mess of existence. It's the kind of letter most advice columnists would toss in the trash. Too broad, too vague, too angsty. But this columnist, she wasn't like the others. She was writing anonymously under the pen name Sugar, and her reply would blow the internet wide open. It didn't start with some comforting platitude or motivational quote. It started with a confession that made people's jaws drop. She wrote, "Dear what the fuck, my father's father made me jack him off when I was 3 and 4 and 5. In that one shocking, brutally honest sentence, she flipped the entire advice game on its head. This wasn't about quick fixes or easy answers. This was about something that made people lean in closer, hearts pounding. This was about staring into the abyss of human suffering and refusing to blink." The book we're diving into today, Tiny Beautiful Things, is a collection of these columns written by the incredible Cheryl Strayed. You might know her from her blockbuster memoir Wild, but for years, she was the mysterious soul behind the Dear Sugar column. This book became a phenomenon, selling millions of copies, turned into a hit play and a television series. And here's why. It's not just a book. It's a manual for becoming more human. It's a guide to finding grace in the messiest, most painful corners of our lives. And here's my promise to you. By the end of our time together, you're going to understand something profound about your own pain. You'll see that the things that have broken you, the things you feel most ashamed of, aren't your weaknesses. They're actually the source of your greatest strength. You're going to learn not how to erase your scars, but how to build something magnificent from them. So let's dive into the heart of Tiny Beautiful Things. What makes advice truly powerful? Is it the credentials of the person giving it, their perfectly curated Instagram life, their impressive title? Cheryl Strayed, writing as Sugar, throws out a completely different answer. She suggests that the most powerful advice doesn't come from a place of authority. It comes from a place of shared humanity. It comes from someone willing to say, "I've been there too. I've been just as broken, just as lost, just as confused as you are right now. Let me tell you what happened to me." This is what she calls radical empathy. It's the foundation of everything she does. While other columnists stand on mountaintops dispensing wisdom from above, Sugar gets down in the mud with you. She received a letter from a guy who signed himself Johnny, middle-aged, divorced, and completely confused about the word love. After a 20-year marriage fell apart, he found himself unable to say "I love you" to a new woman in his life. He asked Sugar, point blank, "What is this love thing all about?" Sugar doesn't give him a dictionary definition or a 5-step plan. Instead, she tells him the most important story of her life about the last word her mother ever said to her. Her mother was dying of cancer, weak and ravaged by disease. As Strayed was leaving the hospital room for the night, she turned at the door and said, "I love you." Her mother was silent, too weak to speak, until just as the door was closing, she called out a single word: love. She couldn't muster the I or the you, but that one word was enough. It was everything. When Strayed returned the next morning, her mother was gone. "That word," she tells Johnny, "clanks inside me like an iron bell that someone beats at dinner time. Love, 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 love." This is her Genesis story. This is the source of all her advice. Love isn't some incomprehensible mystery. It's the feeling we have for those we care about. It can be romantic, platonic, familial, fleeting, or everlasting. But the most important thing, she tells him, the absolute best thing you can do with your life, is to tackle the motherfucking shit out of love. She tells him he's not afraid of love. He's afraid of all the baggage he's attached to it. He's afraid of promises and commitments because they feel fragile. But she urges him to be brave, to be authentic. Our main obligation to the people we care about is to be forthright, to tell them what our love means. And then she ends with a command that becomes her rallying cry. We're all going to die, Johnny. Hit the iron bell like it's dinner time. What she's doing here is transformative. She's not just answering his question. She's bearing witness to his fear and meeting it with her own deepest pain. She shows him that his confusion about love connects to the greatest, most universal human experiences of loss and devotion. She makes him feel less alone. This is the core of her method. For Sugar, the wound is where the light enters. Our deepest sorrows don't just break us. They have the potential to remake us into something stronger, more compassionate, more fully human. This idea shines through most powerfully in a letter from a woman who signed herself Stuck. 18 months earlier, at 6.5 months pregnant, she'd had a miscarriage. She lost her daughter. The grief was all-consuming. Every single day was a reminder of the life that wasn't. Her friends and family told her she should be over it by now. After all, it was only a miscarriage. To make matters worse, her doctor had cruelly implied the miscarriage was her fault because she was overweight. This guilt was eating her alive, leading to destructive eating disorders and obsessive exercise. She was pretending to be fine, but inside, everything hurt. How do I care again? She asked Sugar. How do I not feel like I killed my baby? Sugar's reply is a masterclass in compassion. First, she validates the woman's pain. She tells her to ignore anyone who suggests she should be over her daughter's death. She says, "They live on planet Earth. You live on planet my baby died. And you are not alone there." She gently suggests practical steps. Find a support group. Talk to her boyfriend honestly. See a therapist. But then she says there's something truer she needs to share. And she tells a story. She tells of a time she worked as a youth advocate with a group of, at highest risk, middle school girls. These girls came from unbelievably harrowing backgrounds: abuse, neglect, poverty. Their fathers were in prison, or unknown, or were the ones abusing them. Their mothers were often addicts themselves. Strayed's job was to empower them, to help them succeed, which in this context meant simply not getting pregnant or locked up before graduating high school. She tried taking them to rock-climbing gyms and ballets, but the system was broken. When she reported the abuse, a girl whose mother's boyfriend would hold her face under an ice-cold hose until she almost drowned, nothing was done. The state had no funding, no resources. The authorities were powerless. One day, after another horrible story from that same girl, Strayed realized she couldn't promise that anyone would intervene. She couldn't promise it would stop. So she told her something different. She told her the truth. She said it would likely go on and she'd have to survive it. That she'd have to find a way within herself to not only escape the situation but to transcend it. She had to do more than hold on. She had to reach. She told this girl, and all the girls, that they had to grab for every good thing that came their way and swim like hell away from every bad thing. They had to build a bridge out of their own desire to heal. This, Sugar explains to Stuck, is the most true thing for anyone who has had something truly horrible happen to them. Nobody can intervene and make your daughter not be dead. Nobody can protect you from your suffering. You can't cry it away, or starve it away, or exercise it away. It's just there, she writes, And you have to survive it. You have to endure it. You have to live through it and love it and move on and be better for it and run as far as you can in the direction of your best and happiest dreams across the bridge that was built by your own desire to heal. The healing, she says, the genuine down-on-your-knees-in-the-mud change is entirely and absolutely up to you. Strayed isn't offering simple comfort. She's offering a difficult truth wrapped in the deepest empathy. She's saying that your pain is real, your loss is immense, and the only person who can build a new life in the rubble of the old one is you. This is a recurring message in Tiny Beautiful Things. You are not defined by what has been done to you, but by what you choose to do with it. Your greatest wounds can become your greatest strengths. This lesson comes through most powerfully in a letter from a man who signs himself, Living Dead Dad. His 22-year-old son, his only child, was killed by a drunk driver 4 years earlier. His grief, he says, is a private hell. He's a father, while not being a father. He's tried therapy, he has supportive friends, but the pain is so great he often just lies in bed and wails. He tells Sugar that her writing feels sacred to him, and he asks, "How do I go on? How do I become human again?" Sugar's answer is breathtaking. She tells him that he is already human, shining his humanity through his devastating letter. She doesn't try to take his pain away. Instead, she gives it a name. She calls it the obliterated place. She tells him that his work, the real work of deep grief, is to make a home there. The obliterated place, she writes, is equal parts destruction and creation. The obliterated place is pitch black and bright light. It is water and parched earth. It is mud and it is manna. And then she shares her own secret. She says that the strange and painful truth is that she is a better person because she lost her own mom so young. The grief taught her things she couldn't have otherwise known. It showed her shades and hues she couldn't have otherwise seen. She says, when you say you experience my writing as sacred, what you are touching is the divine place within me that is my mother. Sugar is the temple I built in my obliterated place. This is one of the most powerful ideas in the entire book. She's not saying that tragedy is a gift. She's saying that what we build in the aftermath of tragedy can be. The love you have for your son, she tells the father, is bigger than your grief. It's a pure, unalterable force. Your son was your greatest gift in his life, and he is your greatest gift in his death. Receive it. Let your dead boy be your most profound revelation. Create something of him. Make it beautiful. While Sugar's advice often deals with these profound, life-altering tragedies, she applies the same radical empathy and unflinching honesty to the quieter, more internal struggles we all face, especially the struggle to trust ourselves. So many letters she receives are from people standing at crossroads, paralyzed by indecision, terrified of making the wrong choice. A young woman, scared and confused, writes in. She's been with her boyfriend for 6 years. He's a great guy, but she feels distracted, second-guessing the relationship. Her friends are all getting married, but she feels trapped. Her biggest fear is being alone and never finding anyone that measures up. Sugar's response isn't a pros and cons list. It's a story about when she was 20, living in London, broke, and married to a man she loved dearly, but knew she had to leave. She tells a story about an old woman she would talk to during her breaks from her job as a coffee girl. Every day she'd see this woman. And one day her husband came to visit her on her break and saw the woman too. After the woman left, her husband looked at her with astonishment and said, "She has a bundle on her head." And Strayed realized it was true. This entire time, the old woman had been balancing an enormous, 3-foot-high tower of rags and blankets on her head, held on by a complicated system of ropes. It was the most obvious, bizarre thing in the world, yet in all her conversations with her husband about this woman, She had never once mentioned it. She couldn't bring herself to acknowledge what was so very obvious and so very true. That day she started crying, and she couldn't stop. She was crying because she knew that her inability to say there is a bundle on that woman's head was connected to her inability to admit the truth of her own life, that she had to leave the man she loved. "You have a bundle on your head, sweet pea," she tells the young woman who wrote to her. "You aren't torn. You're only just afraid. You no longer wish to be in a relationship with your lover, even though he's a great guy." She tells her to trust herself. Trusting yourself, Sugar says, means living out what you already know to be true. This idea, that deep down we almost always know the truth, is a cornerstone of her advice. She explores it even more deeply in a column called "The Truth That Lives There," where she answers 3 letters from 3 different women, all asking the same fundamental question. One is a newlywed who feels she settled down too young. Another is a woman in a stifling religious marriage who feels like she's rubbing herself out. The third is bored with her sweet boyfriend and fantasizes about dating other people. They all love their partners. They're all terrified of hurting them. They're all stuck. Sugar responds by telling the story of her own first marriage to that good man she loved but had to leave. She describes an awful thing inside of her from the very beginning. A small, clear voice that would not, no matter what I did, stop saying go. Go, even though you love him. Go, even though he's your best friend. Go, even though you're afraid of being alone. Go, even though there is nowhere to go. Go, even though you don't know exactly why you can't stay. Go, because you want to. And then she delivers the line that would be quoted thousands of times. Because wanting to leave is enough. This is a revolutionary idea, especially for women, who she says have a giant, here to serve, button pinned to them. We're taught to put others' needs before our own. But Sugar argues that an ethical and evolved life also means telling the truth about ourselves and living that truth. It doesn't mean being cruel or careless, but it means that if a deep, persistent yearning to be free is lodged more firmly in your heart than any other feeling, it's not only valid, it's probably the right thing to do. "I didn't want to stay with my ex-husband, not at my core," she writes, "even though whole swaths of me did. And if there's one thing I believe more than I believe anything else, it's that you can't fake the core. The truth that lives there will eventually win out. It's a God we must obey." It's a powerful and sometimes painful message. Your life is your own. You have the right to choose it. You have the right to change it. This fierce belief in self-ownership extends to every facet of life, including our careers and our art. She gets a letter from a 26-year-old aspiring writer, Alyssa Bassist, who is paralyzed by depression and self-doubt. She compares herself to geniuses like David Foster Wallace and feels she'll never measure up. She's sick with panic that she cannot override her limitations and write well. She asks, how does a woman get up and become the writer she wishes she'd be? Sugar tells her that when she was in her late 20s, she also felt like a failure because she hadn't written her book yet. She was consumed by grandiose ideas about what she should have achieved. But she finally reached a point where the prospect of not writing her book was more awful than writing a book that sucked. And so she surrendered. She let go of the grand ideas. She lowered herself to the ground and accepted that the only thing that mattered was getting the story out. That meant she had to write her very possibly mediocre book, her very possibly never going to be published book, her absolutely nowhere in league with the writers I'd admired book. It was only then, in that state of humility that she could do the work. This is the antidote to the jealousy and comparison that plagues so many of us. She tells another writer, who is consumed with envy over his friends' six-figure book deals, that we are all savages inside. We all want to be the chosen one, but that jealousy will devour you if you let it. Your only cause, she insists, is to do the work. Your cause is to write your book. The people who don't give up, she says, are the people who find a way to believe in abundance rather than scarcity. They've taken into their hearts the idea that there is enough for all of us. Then she gives Elissa Bassist a piece of advice that has become a mantra for creatives everywhere. She tells her to forget writing like a girl or like a boy. Write, she commands, like a motherfucker. It's not just about writing, it's a metaphor for living. It means you show up, you do the work, you give it everything you have, without apology and without asking for permission. You claim your own power. You build your own house, your own temple, your own life. Ultimately, Tiny Beautiful Things isn't a book about having all the answers. It's a book about the courage to ask the questions and the grace to live with the uncertainty that follows. It's about accepting that life is a great and continuous unfolding, and that our job isn't to predict the future, but to show up for the present with as much love and honesty as we can muster. In one of the final columns, a young woman asks Sugar what she would tell her 20-something self if she could go back in time. Sugar's advice is a poem of hard-won wisdom. She would tell her to stop worrying about being fat, to be brave enough to break her own heart, to understand that most things will be okay, but not everything will be. Acceptance, she says, is a small, quiet room. She tells a story of a day she was on a bus, tangled up in heroin addiction, feeling like a worthless piece of crap. A little girl got on holding 2 purple balloons and offered her one. She didn't take it, because she believed she no longer had a right to such tiny, beautiful things. You're wrong, the older Sugar tells her younger self. You do. And perhaps that is the book's final, most important lesson. That no matter how broken we are, how far we've fallen, or how deep our shame, we always, always have a right to the tiny, beautiful things. We just have to be brave enough to accept them. When you close Tiny Beautiful Things, you don't feel like you've just read an advice book. You feel like you've had a long, late-night conversation with the wisest, most compassionate friend you could ever imagine. A friend who isn't afraid of your darkness, because she's not afraid of her own. What Cheryl Strayed accomplishes in these pages is something truly rare. She reclaims the act of giving advice from the realm of experts and gurus and returns it to the realm of the human heart. Her authority doesn't come from a degree or a title. It comes from her scars. It comes from her willingness to say, my life has been a mess too. I've made terrible mistakes. I've been gutted by grief, and I survived. You can too. The most powerful lesson, for me, isn't about what to do in any specific situation. It's about a fundamental shift in how we view our own lives. We live in a culture that encourages us to hide our struggles, to present a polished, perfect version of ourselves to the world. We curate our lives on social media, showing only the highlight reel. But Sugar reminds us that our brokenness isn't something to be ashamed of. It's the raw material of our compassion. It's the shared ground where we connect with one another. Her concept of the obliterated place, that wound at the center of our lives, and her challenge to build a temple there, is life-altering. It reframes our deepest pain not as a liability, but as a source of sacred power. It suggests that our purpose isn't to get over our suffering, but to get through it, and in doing so, to create something beautiful and strong in its wake. So, how can you start applying this wisdom to your own life right now? Here are a few simple actions inspired by the book. First, write your own letter to sugar. You don't have to send it. You don't have to show it to anyone. But take the time to articulate, with brutal honesty, what is truly hurting you. What are you afraid of? What secret are you keeping? What question are you terrified to ask? The act of putting words to your pain is the first step toward understanding it. As Sugar shows us, naming our demons is the first step to taming them. Second, practice radical empathy on yourself. The next time you feel that sting of jealousy, or a wave of shame, or the voice of your inner critic telling you you're not good enough, stop. Instead of beating yourself up, get curious. Ask yourself, with the same compassion Sugar would offer, why do I feel this way? What is the story behind this feeling? Treat your own difficult feelings not as evidence of your failure, but as clues to a deeper truth about what you need and what you've been through. And finally, look for the tiny, beautiful things. The world will always be full of heartbreak and injustice and things that are just plain wrong, but it's also full of grace. It's full of purple balloons offered by a stranger, of the right word from a friend at the right time, of the quiet strength you find on a long walk. Train your eyes to see them, acknowledge them, let them be evidence that even in the darkest of times, you still have a right to beauty. That was a summary of Tiny Beautiful Things by Cheryl Strayed. We've touched on the major themes and stories today, but here's the truth. A summary is like looking at a photograph of a feast. You can see what's on the table, but you can't taste it. The real power of this book is in the experience of reading it, of letting Strayed's raw, poetic, and profoundly human voice speak directly to you. This summary is a doorway. If anything we've talked about has struck a chord in your heart, I urge you to walk through it. Grab a copy of the book, because reading it isn't just an act of learning, it's an act of healing that can genuinely change the way you see your life. The link to the book is in the description. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.